Hello and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk More on Monday. I'm your podcast host, Chloe, and we are talking about Black History Month. So I am joined by Chris Smith. We're so excited to have you here on the episode today to talk about Black History Month and what your influence in the arts community of Indianapolis has been, which is definitely something that's very close to our heart. Our founder, Ariana, worked in the arts sector of Indianapolis for years, and it's still something that's very important to her. So we're very excited to have you on to talk about this and just what it means, how we can acknowledge it, how everyone can be a better ally, and what it means to you. So welcome, Chris. We're so happy to have you here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. When Ariana asked me, I couldn't say no. So yeah,
Right.
looking forward to our conversation.
It is impossible to say no to her.
Possible.
So for our listeners, tell us about you. Who are you and what do you do?
For sure. Yeah, my name is Chris Smith. I'm the founder of 1000 Words Gallery. We're actually a nonprofit art space, a little different than a lot of the galleries you may be familiar with, in that we don't charge our artists a commission or a fee to host their shows. And we're all about uplifting the community and helping out those artists that might, just kind of be getting started out on their journey, or they're being overlooked by some of the more established institutions.
That's amazing. I'm sure that's very meaningful for the arts community.
Yeah, it's awesome in a sense because you're meeting people where they're at. But it's also it's fun because you get to embark on a new journey with new artists all the time.
Yeah.
And we're really about uplifting our community and trying to help Black and brown artists that have statistically been denied opportunities. So we're really excited to be able to do the work for sure.
Yeah. So what does the name of the gallery mean?
So, a picture is worth 1,000 words. When
Mhm.
we first started out, the goal was conversation and community. So, trying to
Yeah.
get people in a space to talk about art together, maybe taking down some of the barriers that exist because we don't know each other or because we may isolate from one another. And art is a beautiful thing, and it gets people thinking and talking, and helps people share perspective. So that at the basis is what 1000 words means, as well as where the name came from.
Yeah, I love it. Well, we are here today. This episode will publish in February, which is Black History Month. So we're here to talk a little bit about that, to expand on the idea, and to talk about your influence in the arts community in Indianapolis and, what that can mean for all of us. So to
Yeah.
start out, I want to know, what does Black History Month mean to you, and how do you celebrate it or acknowledge it?
Yeah, so for me, Black History Month, it really is a personal celebration for me, in the sense that I feel like I am making Black history, and I'm making history at the same time. And all the people that I work with that uplift the work we do at 1000 Words, as well as in the art community at large, they all have the power as well to make history. So I think that's what we're doing. If you really look at the United States and where we've come from, it's a dark history that oftentimes gets overlooked. And in today's current political climate, it wants to be pushed away, or maybe even repackaged to something that's more politically advantageous. But
Right.
What I really believe is that there needs to be space year round carved out for those that sacrificed a lot in order to be able to build a country without a lot of recognition. And I'm grateful that there is the month where there is a spotlight on those historically and currently doing the work. But I also fear that maybe conversations around diversity and equity and inclusion in 2025, thinks about maybe taking that time away. So while it's here, while it's established, it's really my goal to celebrate Black History Month every day.
Yeah. You made some great points. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, if you've been watching the news, is not necessarily a priority in some places and is even being actively worked against. So the more that we can have those conversations and acknowledge the work that has been done to get us where we are, and the fact that this country was built on the backs of Black people, and we wouldn't have an economy or any of that without those people, and the fact that they set that groundwork and brought, they brought space to the table for people like you to do the work that you're doing and
Right.
to continue to uplift those voices. If we don't acknowledge that, all we're doing is moving backwards.
Yeah, and to your point, I don't necessarily feel as if Black History Month is a black thing, right? It's an American tradition. It's an American response to, as you mentioned, subjugating a race of people for 400 years, taking away their identity, their history, and somehow, even though mitigated everything that they had in terms of talent, in terms of treasure, their time, generational wealth, they've overcome for the most part a lot of that intentional design, right? So this month to me is an
Mm.
opportunity for people to realize Black History Month doesn't mean Black people celebrating only. It means America celebrating the legacy of what it means to be Black in America.
Yeah. And all of the civil rights that have come because of people like Martin Luther King Jr. or Rosa Parks, who made it a priority and said, there are nonviolent but meaningful ways to get these messages across to people. And you're right. We should be talking about these things and acknowledging them year round. But since we have it, it's good to uplift those conversations even more.
That is it's a amazing point that you make, and I also I want to add and make sure I bring folks' attention to is that even if you think about like women suffragists as an example, Black, white, Native women, they all fought together in the 20s to win the vote for white women, right? And until civil rights legislation was passed 40, 50 years later, did that opportunity extend to Black women. So again, just thinking about how the history has been about solidarity and lifting one another up, even if the current climate says that it's better to be forgetful of that past.
Right. And, to that point, we'll talk about a little bit more later about allyship and support. But as people who are existing in this current political climate, it's just that much more important to lift up the voices of those that we know are being pushed to the side or marginalized, or, their way of life is being threatened. So
Right.
it's just good to keep having these conversations regardless of outside circumstances, we'll say. But yes, thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Sure.
And to pivot a little bit, I want to talk about you
Mhm.
owning a nonprofit and existing in that space. So, what has your experience been like as a Black entrepreneur in a historically Black neighborhood as the Indianapolis downtown has grown economically, geographically, and you know in terms of the population, it continues to boom, especially as you're an active investor in the area and a nonprofit leader in these communities. What has that experience been like?
It's been overall great. I can't really, point to all of the, ebbs and flows, the ups and downs. The general outcome has been great for me. It's been great for the community. If you look specifically at what we do in terms of the art world and the work we do there, it really has just been all about building an opportunity in a space for people who want to create to have a space to create, but then also thinking about how we're placed in a area that has been historically divested from, right? And some people may even say that is now being gentrified.
Mm.
I don't know about that term, but I do think that there is definitely a rapid pace to move certain folks in and certain folks out. But how do we then talk about the community that we're based in, and how do we serve those who are right in our neighborhood who don't have the ability to maybe understand the value of art or have the ability to practice and learn art because they have to focus on meeting their basic needs.
Right.
So we're really grateful that we're in the space that we're in. We're really grateful for the people that constantly pour in and support and show up to uplift again black and brown voices, but then also as we look around to our neighbors and the neighborhood and the community that we're a part of, what can we give back? What can we pour into that allows people to see that, art has the power to uplift and, heal communities. So I'm
Yeah.
grateful. You think about the investment side, that's probably been a little bit more tricky, a little bit more difficult, I would say, in a sense, to find my personal community. But again, I'm grateful for those who don't have a problem sharing and showing the way. Who, if I have questions or if I have potential a need for advice, they're always willing to really support me and help me make the right move to not only improve my personal situation or my own financial outlook, but doing what's right in the community and trying to help those that are in need and need a place to stay or need a place to work.
Yeah. Those resources are huge because you don't know what you don't know, right?
So,
Yeah. And I think you made an interesting point about how arts education and ability starts from such a young age.
right.
But, if a public school arts program is cut, maybe
Mhm.
you have had no experience, no, like, what's the word I'm looking for? No exposure
Right.
to the arts, or, maybe you have like untapped talent that you just wouldn't know about because it's never
Mhm.
been offered to you. Has education or reaching out to youth ever been something that your nonprofit has talked about?
Yeah, we've been really privileged to have the ability to work with local schools. Last year, we actually had a really unique experience with the Purdue Polytechnic High School in the Inglewood, at the Inglewood campus. We spent some time with some folks from the 1,000 Words team, as well as some of the leaders over at Purdue Polytechnic. Shout out to Chelsea. She's a great teacher there, and she made the connection, but we went to the school and we talked a little bit about the work we do at the gallery. And then we kind of talked to the students about what it would look like if they had hosted their own art show. So
Oh,
that's what we did. We worked with them for several weeks. They actually came up with the entire show on their own. They made the flyers, they made the art, they invited their friends, their family out. It was literally, they even hung up the art. So it was really all on them. We provided a space. We talked to them a little bit about the importance of art and letting their creative genius shine, and they did, right? And I would say the thing that was probably most impactful for me as again a person in the community is seeing the impact that it had not only on the students but their parents. But we
yeah.
had a really unique interactive piece where people could write what they loved or didn't love about their community, and the responses from the young people really showed like the gaps that exist in our city, right? So like not a really safe place to use public transportation if you're going to
Mhm.
school in that mode, or like not having a fun place that you can congregate in your neighborhood, or skating rinks, or the malls are kind of going away. So it was like
Mhm.
really interesting to hear like people who were 14 to 18 kind of point out like, hey, as a society, while you all don't necessarily um, particularly support the things we always want to do, you also aren't making an opportunity for us to grow and change and develop in this world. So it was awesome again to give them the opportunity to share their voices, but it was eye opening to hear kind of their critique of Indianapolis.
It's so true. And I think that's a huge issue for us culturally all over the country. We
Mhm.
used to have these spaces where there was community and, public transit was important. Walkable cities existed. And now, because, everybody has their own car,
Mhm.
there's a lot of isolation due to the internet. I think it sounds like such a boomer thing to say, but it's true.
True.
Those communities are going away. And I think it becomes really stark when you go abroad and you see, like, again, walkable communities,
Mhm.
public transit, fresh food, access to education, and those community spaces that exist, especially for young people to feel safe. Like the fact that they don't have those is just, it's hard to stomach.
It is, but one of the things that's always been one of my core beliefs and what drives the work that I do is that just because something doesn't look the way you think it should, doesn't mean that it can't. And I'm really grateful to be able to have the opportunity to be in a space in the community where people they want to see change, right? So in 2024 and in 2025, 1,000 Words has been able to secure funding to create third spaces. We have one in the St. Clair Place neighborhood, which is an arts garden, and we host art classes, and there's murals. In the spring, there's lots of flowers and lots of bees and butterflies and stuff you just don't normally get a chance to see,
Right.
because again, like you're saying, things are kind of going in a different direction. And then in 2025, we're actually creating a another space, another third space along 10th Street next to the gallery, that's going to have a mural and an open area for people in the community to use it, just to have a again access to an outdoor space that's walkable, that's fun, that's friendly, that's family oriented. So it may be a small step, but it is a step in the right direction.
Absolutely.
I don't want to live in a dystopian world where everybody is just plugged into the matrix and always on their phone. Like in my perfect world, we're gonna hang out and we're still gonna cross paths at the town square and exchange ideas and talk face to face. And even if it's just me and a couple folks, I'm grateful to be able to still be trying to build those places for the future.
Yeah. Well, you're doing very important work, and we're very happy to hear your perspective and know that there is a world that we can work towards. So, as we are wrapping up this episode of Let's Talk More on Monday, how can people find you if they're interested in your work?
Yeah, the best way is to find us on Instagram. That is seems to be our most direct way of getting in contact with folks. But our Instagram is 1,000, the number, so 1000 words, WORDS, and our website is the same, 1000wordsnd.com. There you can find out about upcoming events. You can connect with artists that we have featured and ones that we really admire, as well as donate and contribute to our mission and find volunteer opportunities for our upcoming events. And yeah, it's just a great way to get to know us either through Instagram or through our website. Me personally, I'm trying my best not to use social media as much as I can in 2025, but you can check out my art and some of the awards and some of the work I've done personally on Instagram at Chris P Photos.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your perspective. If you want to hear more, make sure to head over to our Patreon and save a seat with us. We're going to be talking a little bit more about communities, history, how to be a better ally, how to educate yourself. So go on over, check out that episode. But Chris, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Peace.
Peace. We'll see you next time. Bye.